Lesson 6.4, Properties of Parallelograms. Look up and define a rhombus. Draw a picture and label it. So I will do that. But if you want to try it on your own, I recommend it. Rhombus has 4 congruent sides. And yes, it is a parallelogram. And this little box means parallelogram, not rhombus, even though it looks like a rhombus. So that means it has all the properties of parallelograms. So if there's 4 on this side, there's 4 on this side. But since it's a rhombus, you can also have 4 on these sides. This angle is 70 degrees. This angle is 70 degrees. This angle would have to be 110 degrees, and this angle would have to be 110 degrees. That's the properties of a rhombus. Everything in a parallelogram plus all 4 sides congruent. What about a rectangle? You should look it up first, but I'll do it here too. 4 right angles. Yes, it's parallelogram. So like I just showed, all those properties apply. I'll show 2 more properties. That means that if this is 6, this is 6. And we'll talk about this more later. This would also be 6 on each side. So 12 is the whole diagonal, 12 is the whole diagonal. They bisect each other, and in a rectangle, they're actually congruent. How about a square? Square has 4 right angles and 4 congruent sides. Obviously, it's a parallelogram. So everything I just talked about before, 6, 6, 6, 6, applies. It's the same thing. Is a square a rhombus? Yes. Is a rhombus a square? Sometimes. Depends on the rhombus. But a rhombus itself is not usually a square. Is a square a rectangle? Yes. Is a rectangle a square? Again, sometimes. You might have a rectangle with 4 congruent sides, in which case it is a square. So now we put in some corollaries, and this is more information. It's not true of all parallelograms, it's true of certain things. So take a quadrilateral. I don't know if it's a parallelogram. Give it 4 congruent sides. Then it's a rhombus. So we don't know if it's a parallelogram. We say, oh, this is a rhombus because it's got 4 congruent sides. But if it's a rhombus, then we also know it's a parallelogram because a rhombus is a parallelogram, so all the properties apply. Same thing for a rectangle. I have a quadrilateral. 4 congruent sides. Pardon me, 4 right angles. Then we know it's a rectangle. Notice I can't abbreviate rectangle. I could stop there, but I can't draw a little shape because the shape means parallelogram. If it's a rectangle, it's also a parallelogram. So if it's quadrilateral and we can say it's got 4 congruent sides and 4 90-degree angles, then it's a square. And obviously if it's a square, it's also a parallelogram. Now you might look at these, be like, I thought we just did this on the other side. What is the difference? On the other side, we were defining things, and now we're saying if-then statements. If it's this kind of thing, it's a parallelogram. If it's this kind of thing, it's a rectangle. If it's this kind of thing, it's a square. The difference is very subtle and nothing you need to concern yourself over. But that's why we call it corollaries. It's very similar to what we already did. So now two more. I'm going to make a slightly bigger rhombus over here. If you draw on the diagonals of a rhombus, so we know we've got a rhombus because there's 4 congruent sides. Almost a perfect rhombus, not quite. You get 4 right angles. And you get 4 congruent triangles. That's what my question here is intended to get, 4 congruent triangles. I do not remember the properties of a rhombus. I do remember that it forms 4 congruent triangles with 90-degree angles. That really takes care of everything else. Then I know that this is congruent to this is congruent to this. The outsides are all congruent. Should I go with 3 tick marks here? Once I remember that I have 4 congruent triangles, everything else takes care of itself. And we pointed this out earlier. Diagonals of a rectangle are congruent. So if we have a rectangle and we draw on the diagonals, one way to look at it is to say that the diagonals are congruent, but I also like to say at this point we have 2 congruent triangles. And that's by side, side, side. We know that this is congruent to this is congruent to this is congruent to itself. But at the same time, we also know we have 2 congruent diagonals. That's it. Good luck.